Hi everyone, welcome back to another Facebook Live. This time we're going to be doing testimonies again. We had mine last, today we have Hummingbird.
Hello, hello.
So, yes, we'll kind of give everyone a few minutes to see who's going to pop online and kind of just do some chat real quick and then we'll get started. So I hope everyone's had a great week. We had a great back to school backpack drive partnered with the college and Albertsons last Sunday. I believe in 2 weeks we're going to have a car wash at Calvary, so y'all come out, show your support. We'd love to wash your vehicles.
Yes.
Our Bible study should be back on again next week, or we have one more break. Don't quote us. I think we'll be starting soon again. We're on a little break.
Yeah.
Pinball, don't judge us. All right. I think that's really all that I can say right now. Let's get started.
Okay.
All right. Why don't we just jump right in? Why don't you tell us about the first 10 years of your life, your adolescence?
Okay. I grew up in church. If I didn't go with my parents, I went with my grandparents. What else? I grew up, always learning about Jesus. And I feel like as a child I loved the Lord, but I guess it really wasn't until, the age of 11 was when I ended up getting baptized. And I guess at that point was when I kind of started, getting more serious about God, I still think that sometimes, it depends on your maturity. At 11, you may be, able to understand the full aspect of God and all of that. But, I don't know, I guess it's different with everybody. But after that, after I got baptized, I did try, I was still a kid, so there's really, I guess not too much to say about that part of my life. I definitely had good
influences.
Oh yeah. Everybody in my family. But
what was your home like then? What was the setting? You were surrounded by family and
I was, and actually now that you bring that up, my parents split when I was young. I'm trying to think, between maybe 6 and 7 or something, and everything, and that was hard. I remember thinking that was my fault.
Yeah.
And that's something that I, whenever I would go to church and stuff, I would have other people talk to me, and tell me it's not your fault, but I think even as a child, and I may have kind of gotten off track, but even as a child or youth, sometimes you take on too much. I guess that has nothing to do with you. It's, like in that situation, me feeling like it was my fault that my parents got divorced, and then I waited until when I was older and able to understand, and then I got insight on all of that.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not going to go into detail, but insight, my parents didn't have a good marriage. They got married young and everything, and so they just kind of jumped into that and stuff. But let's see, I'm trying to think. After all of that, I ended up getting over that stuff and everything, and God helped me with that. That's something, even as a child, God can always help. No matter what your age is, God can help you, and get you through stuff. And so He definitely got me through that. Then when I started getting into, I guess, teenage years, that's when stuff started kind of getting rough. All the being tempted and having the wrong friends and all of that. So through that, in my teenage years, I did go to church, and I loved going to youth group. Praise and worship has always been, I don't know if I'd say my thing, but just something that I absolutely love, because it sets the tone and gets me in the mood, for
definitely
to listen to the word.
I love coming in and just hearing the music on, because I know what kind of mood you're in, and it's just great seeing that you in that setting, and you have a beautiful voice, so who wouldn't want to hear you sing?
Thanks.
Well, so why don't we start from about 15?
Yeah.
getting closer to finishing up you're in high school now.
Yeah.
Lead from 15 to 20.
Okay, so from 15 to 20, 15 I was a pretty good kid. 16 was when I started, I guess probably hanging out with the wrong friends. I really didn't get into too much trouble. Here and there, if I got out and about, and went over to a friend's house, I did have, a few drinks and stuff.
Right.
Let's see. 16 really, I guess 15 I wasn't drinking at 15. That was, I'm thinking earlier. So we'll scratch that out for a minute. But at 16, I was heavily influenced by, I guess you'd say boys and hormones. And so, yep, I had sex before marriage, and I actually, after that, I felt horrible. I mean, I felt convicted, because I was like, Lord, I know this is not your will, we're supposed to save ourselves for our spouse that God gives us, and puts in our life. And so that was really hard. I mean, I always felt conflicted. It's like, do I, give in to my feelings and my wants, of the flesh, and continue down this road with boys that don't even care? You know what I mean? So, anyway, I did kind of go down that road for a little bit. And then at 17 or 18 was when I would go and, I'd have a few drinks over at a friend's house, or something like that.
The social scene.
Yeah, being social. But, that, I never really, I guess got into too much trouble until after 21. And at 21, because I guess like the 16 to 20, I mean, I did stuff here and there, but I never, not too big of a deal. Then, let's see, at 21, I married my first husband. And without going into too much detail, because I always felt like I was like, I don't want to badmouth. We both had issues. We both had things that we needed to work on. But long story short, with that, it was not a good marriage at all. I mean, it's like neither one of us, I guess, would really try. He was out of town a lot and stuff like that. We had a daughter together, Dawson, and all I have to say, she is the biggest blessing out of that marriage. I mean, for sure. But throughout that marriage, I just kept praying and praying and praying, because I was like, Lord, I don't know really I don't know what to do in this marriage. I think 21 is young. I mean, I still think that's young, but I know people in the people that are older, and everything, they got married at younger ages and stuff, so I was kind of thinking, 21, I'll be fine, but, we barely knew each other, which that's kind of my second and last marriage, too, just jumped in. But I kept praying. In my first marriage, I kept praying for God to either show me or give me the right words, tell me the right things to do to make this marriage work. I continued to go to church, took our daughter. I took over the role of the spiritual head of the household, and that is not something that a woman should do.
No.
Ever.
No.
I mean, that we should still continue, as women or a wife or whatever, continue to do things right in God's eyes, and go to church and everything. But yeah, that I kind of think messed that, marriage up, not just because I was taken over spiritually, but because he wasn't there. The dynamic wasn't right. Yeah. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I just kept praying for my husband, my first husband, to come back to the love of God, that he had whenever we first met. And I just kept praying that and praying that and praying that for the almost 10 years that we were together. And just kept praying, and then it's like we finally reached a point to where we were like, we need to figure out something, you know, what way is this going? And I felt like, you know, I kept trying and was getting nowhere, but that's the thing. If you yourself keep trying and you don't fully, I mean, yes, I was praying, but if you fully don't give it to God, we really can't do much. I mean, you know, we can do the natural that we know to do, but you got to give everything to God. I mean, and so with that, we went through that and everything, and we came to a point where I was like, you know, I feel like I'm done. You know, I feel like I've done everything I can. I'm still showing love. I'm, you know, going to church. I'm obeying God, you know, and all of this, but still nothing was happening. So, we got a divorce, and then now I'm happily with Pinball. But
when did you get divorced?
We got divorced in 2014, October 2014, and then I married Pinball June of 2015. So everything did happen.
Life has changed within a whole year.
Oh yeah, so
It's
quick.
amazing how God works.
It is. But here's to where it kind of, after I moved in with Pinball,
The transition phase.
yes, here's the transition phase. So, and without going into his testimony, I'll just touch a little here and there. I ended up going down the trail of meth, and I started just little, you know, it'll just be a once a month thing, no big deal, you know, I'm just snorting it, you know, no biggie. Well, then we had some acquaintances come over, and I had asked some of them, I was like, what's the big deal, you know, why do y'all do it different than me? And so anyway, I had somebody help me out, and they gave me my first shot, and after that it was downhill. I mean, and I don't know if other people know this that are out there, maybe not, maybe so, but whenever you use drugs intravenously, oh my gosh, it's so much, it's harder to get out of, I guess I'd say. And so I went down that trail for maybe a couple years, and I just came up on my 4 years clean mark.
Yay,
So
that is awesome.
that is
Praise
so
God.
good, yeah. So, but that's what gets me more than anything out of my testimony is that, because I think about how much I hurt my family, how much I pushed them away. I feel like I lost a lot of good people through that, because whenever you get in an addiction like that, it's a whole different mindset. And sorry.
No, you get it. It's reliving something that you relived through once.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It is,
no
because
matter
it's
how.
like bringing that back,
Yeah.
even though you know
We
it's
can
for
talk
the
about it
glory
a
of
million.
God. Yeah,
We
you
can talk about it a million times, but
and you re-feel all that emotion.
yep.
So, but yeah, I finally, what got me is our daughter Dawson saw me fall out, and of course I didn't know what happened.
Right.
I mean, the next day, I remember I was in the bathroom, and she was like, "Mommy, are you okay? I thought you died." I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay, God, that's it. I've got to do something. It's not supposed to affect my kids. It's already affected enough people. I don't want it to mess with them." And so, anyway, you know, I had to ask the Lord for strength. I was like, I cannot do this on my own. And so I prayed for it to be such a turn off and be so disgusting and nasty to me that I didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And so
They say until you're disgusted with it, you're not done
yeah,
with it.
you have to actually be totally done. I mean, you can think I'm done here and there, but I'm not saying that God allowed me to fall out for me to get a heads up to
Right,
stop,
but
but it's like,
It's the fact that you and him were able to use that into good. I mean, you didn't
Yes.
just let it end right there. You turned
Right,
it around
exactly.
from that point, and that's where your testimony is.
Yeah.
That is so amazing.
Yeah. And at that point, we started going back to church, you know, and everything. But until then, during that transition of me moving to the mountains, you know, and stuff, and I'm sorry, I forgot this one part. In that, I didn't have Dawson, my daughter, I didn't have her for over a year.
Yeah.
And because she was with my mom and her biological dad. And so that is what made me think, I have nothing to lose, you know, I'll just let my life go. And that's when I got into meth and stuff. But after God gave me the strength to get through all that, you know, we got into another ministry, my husband and I and everything, and then, you know, that kind of fell south and everything, and then now, here we are now, and back to me praying for the godly husband,
Yeah.
and for a husband that loves God above everything and everyone. Well, I have that now in pinball, and so I never, even through the bad, I kept God in my back pocket. I mean, he was always there for me. It's just sometimes I ignored him, you know. And I think we do that a lot. We ignore God's voice and what he's telling us, maybe because we're scared or because we are too caught up in ourselves or the addiction, and to those of you out there, addiction can be anything. Whenever I lived in Texas, I went to, and this was before drug use and everything, I had gone to this really neat, and that's little Miss Addie over there. If you hear the wonderful little baby noises, she's precious. But anyway, okay, I gotta get back on track.
You went to this in Amarillo?
Yes, in Amarillo. Thank you. I went to this, sorry, I'm like filled with emotion right now. It's like, I can't think. So I had gone to, it was actually my ex-mother-in-law and ex-father-in-law, they ran this group, and it was really to kind of help people that were struggling with addiction, or help people stay out of addiction. And there was so many people in there. You could learn so much from people that, if you're willing to sit and listen with them, I mean, there's so many things that you can learn.
There's power in a story and power in a testimony.
Oh yeah, big time. And in this group, I learned, you know, I always thought, oh, addictions, you know, it's always drugs or alcohol. Always. No. You can have gambling issues. That can be an addiction.
Food, sex, I mean,
all of that.
All of the above. Anything
everything,
that is
clothes.
that
I mean, anything
controls your life or takes over
away from God,
and steals your joy and takes you from God. Yeah, then it is.
Yeah,
it's just as bad.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting learning that, and then now going into where we're at now. God is so good. I mean, it's crazy how, like I said, I prayed for about 10 years. I mean, and I never really stopped praying, you know, for my then husband.
Right.
And I still pray for any of my exes, you know, for them to know God, for them to feel God's love, you know, and all of that. Just because I want everybody to feel him. He's so good. But, that prayer that I prayed for my first husband, I kind of just continued that on. I mean, and, you know, prayed that for pinball and everything, and God has done so much just in our marriage. And, Billy, you can't come out yet, baby, sorry. You'll have to have Sissy help you. Sorry, my kiddos came out and are wanting, I think, to jump or something. So, anyway. Okay, alright. Sorry. Anyway, but I just, you know, it's so important for us to pray for everybody in our family. And always think of the triangle. You know, God's on top, the husband and wife right here. And whenever you are both doing what you're supposed to be doing and, you know, living for God and having that quiet time with God, you and your spouse will continue to get closer and closer to up until you meet that point, you know, with God. And it's just so important to pray over everybody that you know. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And pray God's will and everything. And that's something that I've kind of had to learn. It's not it's not about me anymore. You know, the Galatians 2:20.
Yes.
You know, more or less die to yourself.
Who lives anymore, but Christ who lives in
Yes. Yep. And I was crucified with Christ. You were crucified with Christ if you're a believer. You know? And so he takes over your life. That's how it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be you worrying and concerned all the time. And what am I going to do? What am I going to wear? What am I, you know, God has it. There's also the saying, the scripture that, you know, this isn't the right wording, but we're more important than birds, you know, and the birds are always fed.
He gave us dominion over every animal.
Yeah.
I believe is what it says.
Yeah, there's that too. So yeah, it just, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say, but now, I guess if we go into now where we're at, with Prisoners of Hope has given me, I guess you could say hope, really. I mean, and just has helped me overall just as a person. I mean, just deal with stuff, and
I think it's given us all different tools or just different people to help us.
Yes, like
cope and
you.
grow.
I mean, yeah. We have a friendship that neither one of us probably thought that we were going to have. I mean, it just kind of happened. I mean, with being in POH and stuff.
And it's unexplainable except for the only way to explain it is him.
Oh, yeah. And
He works through all of our lives in different ways, and it's just amazing how he brings everything we go through in our life, brings us to the exact moment he wants us to be in. And I'm so thankful for it.
I know, me too. So,
well, is there anything you want them to know about you that they may not already know?
I don't like stuff like this. I like sharing my testimony, but it's something that
it's hard opening up.
It is, because you open up all of these emotions and hurts and everything. But the greatest thing that you can remember is to push yourself aside. I mean, let God fully live in you and take control over you. You know, and be led and guided by the Holy Spirit. That's the only thing that gets me through my days. I mean, if it wasn't for God, I'm sure I'd still be back living. I mean, we're all sinners and we all fall short, you know, but definitely, God helps you through your days. Any concerns or desires of your heart, you know, give them to Him.
Yeah.
So, and I guess in ending, the best thing that we can do is be a Matthew 5:16 kind of person. I mean, and let our light shine. Because, you know, people, that's something to kind of backtrack. That's something that Pinball saw in me. Mm-hmm. He didn't know what it was.
Right.
I mean, because, you know, I came into his life and I was all, you know, I was praying and stuff like that, and he'd be like, tell Jesus to go mow my lawn, you could do that, you know,
right,
and stuff like that. And it's just, it's so neat to see transformations through people, not just my husband, but I mean, even in our children or other people at the church, anything. It's just, God is good.
God is.
Yeah, so, and I'm sure I could come up with a lot more to say, but.
Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed this. Anyone who saw or heard anything out there, we hope it helps. Reach out to us. We're all here for you.
And if you have questions, I would love
to. Yeah, we'd love to.
Visit and talk. And if you're a guy out there that needs to talk to somebody, we have guys in our group too that
one of our husbands would love to sit down with you or just talk with you.
Please
reach out
don't
to
hesitate. If you feel like something's going on in your life that you need help with, or you're struggling,
or even just an ear.
Yeah, just an ear. If you just need to vent and just someone, you know, have a heart to heart and just listen. We're here.
And we're here to love you and to share Jesus' love with you.
Yes.
So thank y'all guys.
Thanks.
Have a blessed
God
day.
bless you all.